Buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone sends my way. From the corazón, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to allow this message to reach out a little further. Thank you. Well, everyone, today is gonna be a continuation of something, if you guys remember, but it's gonna be more of a cautionary tale than, a point to everything. First I want to take you back to, and it had to be 99. Yeah, 99, where I met the homie Wimpy from Arrowhead, right? He was the first camarada I ever met from Arrowhead. I remember I used to even ask him numerous of times if he was just yanking my chain, because, well, you tend to hear neighborhoods throughout your time, and Arrowhead was just not one I had heard, right? Not to sound acayaya, I was just wet behind the ears, right? Coming from Northern California. But anyways, I want to speak to you a little bit about the camarada, On the yard, he was a good homie. He was a clown, a straight clown. He liked messing around, making you laugh. He used himself, he used anything. Just when it came to when things had to be discussed in a political move, or somebody getting hit, or somebody messing up, anything in that aspect, the homie would excuse himself, right? Not being disrespectful, is just, he would say he was there to program, right? Not get into extra stuff and just go home and continue do him in his neighborhood, which, you gotta respect that, right? Especially when it's the time of nothing a camaradas, right? Everybody slammed, so you know how another camarada could tell another camarada how to run his program when it's free, right? But anyways, time would pass. He was there the whole time I was in Ironwood, up until the point that, we went out with Fierros, me and Guerito, and we went at it, right? And I went to the hole. And the first time somebody secondary asked me about Wimpy was the Senor also from Hammett. It was he on your yard? And I told him, yeah, Simon, the homie was there. He was representing IE, right? And he said, oh, all right, all right. And in the sense we talked, I noticed there was more to it than just wondering if a camarada is there, right? And I asked him, todo bien? Or my worrying was, I'm coming off that yard. Homeboy's been on that yard with me for a couple years. I want to know what's up, Did I do something wrong? Or if I did, then I'll take the proper steps to get whacked and clear it up, whatever, right? But he said, nah, no worries. No worries, there's nothing wrong. There's just a lot of questions are being asked, but it's nothing confirmed, you know. It's just a whole bunch of he said, she said, that type of stuff. I was just curious, homie. Todo bien, and anyways, a couple days afterwards, I felt like I really felt like something was coming my way, right? Which I was I was puesto, whatever. If I had messed up, vámonos. I shouldn't be an exception to nothing, right? Program. Cause is when I pretty oversaw everything for them, right? And I was already in management cell for a whacking, and I was just gonna come out this coming week, right? And it's when Cartoon did all his weenie stuff on the tier and messed up whatever what we had going on with este evil from Watts. And anyways, I got asked, to me and my silly little bullet to go ahead and handle it. So I was like, all right, you see, that should have been my decision, right? But again, I was nobody. So I told him, nah, no hay problema, right? We went out to yard, never seen dude up into introduce himself to me. I knew who he was and, started hitting him. And we stayed on. Well, you guys know the story. After that, everything basically just settled in and also told me the reason I asked you, homie, was because, Cartoon, he was validated for many years. He has a lot, he's been in good with a lot of pilis. We could basically answer up if we need to. I told him there's no need to explain, what got to get done needs to get done, period. And we moved from there. I went to Tehachapi, Shoe, and homeboy Wimpy was there in an 8 yard, right in the 180. And my homeboy Creeper from my neighborhood was there. So it was like, I wanted to know what's up. I'm honest, And I asked T and Creeper from Ontario, güey, ¿qué onda aquí? Which, they didn't really open up with me, but they basically started telling me, like, look, the rumor is this camarada is doing things for Chivo and for another carnal that are not right. Nothing is set on stone. That's why we don't say nothing, but he goes by different names on the streets. And they asked me, you ever notice whenever something related to a Pili or something came up, he shook? Told him, yeah, it's exactly what you used to do. He said, but don't worry about it. It's being looked into. So, that brought relief to myself because it was street things, right? And he was doing things with you, and That one cat I don't mention on here, right? But that he's an angel, was always an angel, right? You guys know who I'm speaking of. He has his own YouTube channel, the best YouTube channel, according to him, right? But anyways, when I left Corcoran is when Artie didn't have no pelos en la lengua. He used to tell you straight up how things were, right? And of course, I addressed him and I asked him like, "Hey, look, fool, not like those words, right? But hey, señor, I had Ironwood, like I mentioned to you, 3 years. He was there. Is it serious enough for me to have been walking the same yard and not acted? No, the decision still hasn't hit the fan. So you're all good, homie, right? You guys can kind of get my worrying is, double lifer, but I know better that something as small as you just meeting an individual and not taking care of business will backfire on you. But anyways, he explained to me, he was doing things for Enriquez and that other Billy, which that alone was weird, right? Because supposedly to Frank B, he didn't like that cat. I mean, I ran into Frank B after Homeboy became the biggest rata, right? But it extended for years, right? He didn't like Enriquez and vice versa. But they were doing this thing where they were using the homie. They were using the homie in the sense of go out there. Or this time you're gonna be Casper from Arrowhead, whatever, and just stay clean. And we're gonna give you the spots. You're gonna go in there, lay them down, take their stuff, cripple them, bring it to our angle, our gente, and that's what the homie was doing. Again, that's why it's never right to fall under one pili. I said it since I started. I'll say it again because you never know when that pili, from being solid, he already have it in his thought to start clipping the M to go to leave with a bunch of money, right? As well, especially Enriquez did, right? But anyways, he did it on the Güero. He did it on the Green Eyes, Casper. He used to like using his light complexion, right? That's why inside he tried to keep his name as far away from the Billys as possible, because he was being advised by well, I'll just say from someone smart in the game, right? Which in reality was Frank B. The other one was just taking advantage as he always did, right? And again, it took years for this to investigate, right? Which later it would become one of the biggest factors that other individual that was involved, he wasn't gonna buck up. He ended up weaning out, asked for help, went his way. But Frank B was different. As you guys seen the way he went out. But everyone always speaks about, oh, he admitted to being a carnal. That was his downfall. He was stepping on stones, on toes, excuse me. And he was in Pomona, Daryl's area, even on some of Toro's area, right? But at the end of the day, everything circled back around to what they were doing in that area, Arrowhead, and around the neighborhoods, right? Going with según palabra, all fake wheelers and everything, and he would lay him down, cripple them in the sense of work, jale, and your feria, right? And just sit down. But you see, when push came to shove, it was what? And a few years, right? Homeway, everything would have gotten caught to him, and he got whacked, if I'm not mistaken, in Salinas, and he would end up going to Corcoran. By this time, you could tell his character because he was angry. He had gone from being a sureño or camarada, Southside or whatever, to yelling on the tier 2-5. On the other end of the tier in B section was another 2-5er. And man, if you guys should have heard them, they kind of sound like two weenies on the internet right now, right? But when he seen me, just like, hey, camarada, I couldn't tell you because I told him, Holmes, there's no need for us to even conversate no more. You're too far away from my cell. I can't show you respect. I'll make peace with people around my cell. I understand I have to, right? But other than that, you yelled it on the tier what you are. You did what you did for so and so. One's the biggest rat, the other one's gone already. You didn't have to tell me anything when a Billy's telling you not to tell me. Hey, I ain't nobody, homie. You know, I'm just part, I'm just one more of the movement. And he himself told me my mistake was staying true to Chivo. Everything he requested, I did to the fullest. I didn't want to hear, you saw, I didn't want to hear nothing about different Billies. And I told him, hey, homie, you should have stayed that one day because we always spoke about that, right? Be about the movement, not about an individual because you don't know what that individual's heart's really going to do. And that's what the message I'll leave this year. You see, you're going to go into prison. Some people have some luck, right? Like myself. My first celly was a main member. And then take months for me to figure out, but he was still a main member. If he would have seen something shady in me, he would have got my ass as I slept or whatever, right? But you could also, anyone could have that luck. You go in, they put you in a cell, he's above us program wise, right? But there's a big difference of you showing respect, appreciation, whatever you want to call it, of swearing loyalty only to him. The best answer is always, I'm a sureño. I'm here for the movement wherever I land, whoever it belongs to. They can't do nothing to you with that. Again, I'll end with this in look. If you stay loyal to one Pili, I don't know if you guys seen around, that one Pili knows it. And you're going to be the first one that's going to be thrown head first to crash. So don't do that. Just go in. I'm whatever you want to be. I'm sureño, I'm a Southsider, I'm campulero, camarada, it's a strong word, but I want to earn mine and get yours, right? Camarada is just decided by Billy's, but do it as a whole. Again, this is a cautionary tale I just want to put out and an advice. It never goes good staying true to one M member. Remember, if there's 20 per se, all 20 of them got different agendas, different thoughts, different movidas. Be smart, stay true to yourself, and loyal to your loved ones.
This is what we started. We always